My name is Rodney DeBulsey. I am here in Orange Beach, Alabama, sitting through Hurricane Sally, but I could not resist jumping on the show with my good buddies, Dane Young and Jim Donnan.
And of course, we should mention it is Roddy's farewell show, as you might expect, with him being down at the beach right now. So
he's going down with this show.
Been a good run. Yeah, been a good run, boss.
We are happy to have Jake Roos with us because Jake's going to hit us up with some recruiting news. He had some great nuggets yesterday. If you missed it at UGASports.com, you really missed out. He had some fact or fiction stuff you really needed to see. A lot of rumors over this weekend. Jake spent the entire weekend running down rumors. He and Trent Smallwood and Paul Meharry, they did a great job. And they had a great feature yesterday. Kind of, here's what we heard. Here's what actually happened. Here's what we think. So be sure to check that out. Of course, I do want to mention that, you're watching UGA Sports Live. We have a new show coming on Thursdays that you need to check out. It's going to be Coach Donnan. So obviously you have to check it out right now. Then we're going to add Dane Young on there. He's pretty good. But then Brent Rollins will be on there. So we all want to see your Brent, and we love Brent being on the show. So it's going to be SEC-centric. Of course, there'll be Bulldogs talk, of course, in the show. But if you're looking for a great SEC podcast, where it's talking about all the stuff that's going on within the conference, you're going to get the analysis from Pro Football Focus by having Brent on there. You're going to have Coach Donnan's analysis. Remember, he's only done this for 1,000 years when it comes to the ESPN breaking down all those games each week. So Coach Donnan's going to be able to tell you, hey, Florida's taking on Tennessee. Check this part out. Here's the Auburn LSU game. Check this part out. So be sure to check that out when you get the first show will be this Thursday at 1:00. Of course, you can we'll put it up on Spotify and Apple Tunes and all that fun stuff. So.
Yeah, if you're listening to the podcast, whatever feed that you're listening to this right now, the Around the League podcast that Roddy's talking about, that will be on that same feed.
I know we'll hit on our sponsors later on the show, but Coach, we had a big scrimmage this past weekend. I know it wasn't as much tackling and knocking guys to the ground because they're trying to get away from the, hey, let's fight out for a starting spot, and more towards, let's see what will work because Georgia has to play a football game in 2 weeks. So if you would, we had a bunch of notes up at UGASports.com. You've got people that talk to you all the time. What do we need to make of all this stuff that's going on with the Georgia team as it stands right now?
Well, I think the main thing that they were trying to get across on Saturday was to play an actual game the first half where you had – instead of offense on one side of the field and defense on the other side, like you do a normal scrimmage, you split the teams up kind of like the spring game. I'm not sure how they split them up because I wasn't there, but from what I heard, there was like, for instance, one offense and one defense would be on one team and two defense and two offense on the other. But it could be the other way. But they played the situational instead of running 8 or 10 plays. If you made a first down, you kept going. If you had to punt, you punted. If you had to kick a field goal, you did that. Situational type scrimmage to see how teams reacted to the things that happen when you have officials and things like that. So, and there's a lot of conjecture about what's going on. But I do want to state, which I feel like it's my role here on this show, a couple of things that I feel are really salient to this football team. Everybody wants Georgia to be LSU last year offensively. Wants us to be a team that, wins a lot more dramatically than we did. Maybe not dramatically, a lot more decisively than we did last year. More explosive and all that. But I'm going to give you a stunning reality pill right now.
Oh, no.
In the old coach. Because I watched Pro Football Sunday. I loved watching it. I watched it every way I could watch it, red zone, all that stuff. And, to my surprise, there were not 4 Georgia players from last year's team playing on the rosters, not 5, not 6, not 7, but 8 players from Georgia's offense last year are on NFL rosters. Tyler Simmons even made the Houston team that played against Kansas City, albeit special teams and all. But last night I watched Andrew Thomas starting at left tackle for the New York Giants. I watched Solomon Kinley playing left guard have played a flawless game except for one play against the team of the world, the best defensive team in America, in the New England Patriots. And then had our right tackle had some issues that over the weekend up at Tennessee Titans, but he's also a starter. And as Stats McMahon has told us, we were the only team in the history since 1992 to have 2 offensive linemen drafted in the first round. So you had those 3 offensive linemen, and also the next best guy is at Tennessee. 4 of those linemen are gone. Your quarterback, who didn't lose to Tennessee, who didn't lose to Georgia Tech, who didn't lose to Florida, only lost to Auburn once, is gone. Your running back and his backup are gone. 2 tight ends, one that's played a lot for San Francisco Sunday, and one's on the travel squad for the Baltimore Ravens, is in the NFL. That's 8 players. So let's be realistic, and we want to light up the scoreboard. We certainly got some really good talent, and we got some young players that are going to develop, particularly in the offensive line, but experience-wise, depth-wise, tight end-wise, our tight end transfer's already gotten hurt, is out for the first game probably. So let's be realistic, and when what we're trying to say, we're going to be, and I really like our offensive coaches. I'm high on Munkin, I'm high on Luke, and of course, you know how I feel about the other 3 coaches that we kept. So let's start taking a little bit of more reality here about what we got to do to be good. Certainly our defense is going to be great. Our kicking game is going to be really good. I really like Zirkel and Camarda. I like our kick return. So if you look at a team and analyze it like a coach should when you're trying to build your offense, you got to look at your weaknesses as much as you do your strength. Your weaknesses right now, offensive line, we're not as good as we were last year. Nobody could sustain those losses. So you're going to have to build your offense around a maybe a little bit more mobile type offense where you have some quarterback runs, where you have some plays that the quarterback can do something with his feet when a left tackle gets beat on a speed rush, or when they plug somebody through the A gap and nobody can pick it up because the guard's not used to playing there. So that's what helps Mathis. Certainly clearing Daniels is up in the air, but we know what Mathis can do. I've talked about his potential. So as far as the scrimmage, people are saying, well, we're just Kirby's throwing out a curveball, keeping Daniels on the sideline. Are you kidding me? You think he'd be doing that to try to put some faux pas to everybody? He's doing what he can to get this football team ready. He doesn't know that Daniels is ready. Hopefully he will be, but he knows that Dwan Mathis is a really fast guy that can supplement this team and really help us do a lot of good things to take up for what we might have lost as far as explosiveness with our really good player. The other thing that I didn't mention, our second best receiver from last year tore his ACL. So we lose Don Blaylock, who was an experienced guy who didn't drop a pass last year that was thrown to him, nor did Pickens. So I'm not the prophet of doom. I'm not Mr. Optimism.
Yeah, okay.
But I am trying to tell everybody, let's gather the forces here and understand Georgia's going to have to win games with their defense and their kicking game, and their offense is going to progress, and it's going to be good. I really think it's going to be real good. But to say it's going to be a juggernaut at this point is just unrealistic. So that's my rant. That's my state of the dog situation. But it's a pretty stunning factual statement, isn't it?
It is.
That's unbelievable. Now, Coach, I got to ask you, if everybody talks about being able to restock and reload at these positions, how much or how close can somebody get with talent and preparation versus experience? Can you overcome that gap, I guess, of the lack of experience with great talent and great preparation?
I'm a whole lot more for talent for sure, over experience any time, you got to get the talent in there. And our situation is both of the tackles that we were going to look at for coming in, where Broderick Jones hurts his leg. And from what I understand, Tate Radledge had to sit out, whether it's from COVID or quarantine or what. He missed some practice. So I don't know why, but he wasn't out there. But we got good young players there in McClendon, Condon, Truss. Those guys are coming along, and they're going to be there. And certainly, but you're going to have inexperience at both right and left tackle. I mean, Salyer's played some, but it's not like he's been in the starting role. And he's been an excellent guard inside, but now he's going into the toughest position in the SEC. Left tackle is the toughest position for any player to play. So tight end, Fitzpatrick is our leading receiver with 1 reception. Everybody else has missed a lot of a lot of fall camp. Seether's been out some. We saw McKitty had a surgery. Darnell Washington had surgery. He's back. So, but let's be real here. Let's get with it. We got 2 good backs that really can do the job. I mean, I like Cook and Zamir, but from what I've read, Milton and Mcintosh hadn't hardly practiced any, have they? I mean, Edwards has been the 3rd back, so those guys got to come back off injuries too. So, but Kirby's playing smart. He's done a good job of protecting these guys, and there's no reason to put them in there till they're ready when you got a soft tissue issue.
Yeah, there have been a lot of guys that have missed some of the scrimmage. We had notes, a lot of notes. We broke the news about Trey McKitty being having surgery. As you said, Kendall Milton wearing a black jersey. He missed 2 scrimmages with a hamstring issue. We expected him back this past scrimmage. Didn't hear much about him in this scrimmage. Kenny McIntosh, we know, is a strong 3rd back. He didn't practice in this. He was wearing a black jersey, non-contact. A lot, like you said, a lot of the freshman offensive linemen. Some of them have been in the quarantine, COVID quarantine. Some have been banged up. A lot of players. There's a few concussions rolling around out there for different players. So, missing spring was huge. Having to sub guys in and out because of the injury situation at Georgia right now, it's kind of slowing down your development on offense. Not trying to be, super pessimistic, but I think, Coach, what you're saying is a good check, if you will, on expectations. Everyone wants to take what you did last year with those 8 guys who are in the NFL now and improve upon it. And I think we're setting the bar for Todd Monken. Hey, here's what James Coley did. You need to be here. 20 points a game, in the SEC. No, that's not acceptable. You need to be scoring 30, 35, 40 points to be considered acceptable. With all the changing up tight ends, as you mentioned as well, that's going to be tough. With all of that taken into consideration, Coach, where is a reasonable expectation for this offense? To be as successful as last year, to be less successful and more reliant upon the defense, or to be more successful? I mean, what you laid out is pretty tough.
Here's the thing. We got 3 guys that really have played prominent roles on our team on offense. Our left guard, Schaefer, our starting center, Hill, and our right guard, Ben Cleveland, has played some starting situations in the O-line. Pickens has been a prominent player, and he really did a terrific job when he was counted on there in the bowl game in particular. But outside of that, who else has been in a prominent role on our offensive team? Name one.
Yeah. And I think even Schaefer is a little arguable for the amount that he's played.
Yeah, and Ben Cleveland's been beat out numerous times for his spot.
For a team to be ranked number 4 in the country and to have that few of guys that have really stepped up on the big stage, then that shows you what everybody thinks about our defense. And I think we can win every game. I've always felt like that about every team I've ever coached if things go right. But at the same time, we got to get some quick development at quarterback. We got to find somebody to be not only the 2nd, but the 3rd, 4th, 5th receiver. We got a brand new kick returner. That's another thing that hurt us with losing Don Blaylock. He was money catching the ball, and he was big on some big returns. So whether it's Tyson, whether it's Stevenson, whether it's Jackson, whoever it might be, Burton, all these guys got skill. So there's some question marks, but as much as I was talking about reality here, I am optimistic because I know the talent level is here. we got more players now than we've ever had. 1 through 85. Just some of them wet behind the ears, and they, the thing about it, when you get called on and it's your time to step up, you got to step up. And guys like Condon seem to be doing the job there. I mean, from everything I've read, that he's really taken the challenge and made it go. A guy like Warren Erickson, Clay Webb, those are going to be guys that just get in there and bite you in the below the belt type players.
Careful now, careful.
Those are good players. But
you made a good point, Coach, in saying, and I think that this is where people should have optimism in saying this is a team that's going to have to rely more heavily on its defense. There are worse defenses to have to rely on than that one. I think that you got to feel good about that. And like you said, it seems like the pollsters are really paying them a lot of respect with that number 4 spot.
Exactly. I mean, I feel like, I haven't been around here. I've been around here for 25 years, and I'm just telling you, of all the defenses that I've had to coach against or watch out there, I would be if I was getting an offensive game plan against this team, I would really have to really find a lot of different ways to scheme them, because they can not only hit, run, do everything, but they got a really good scheme and they know how to run it. And they really believe in each other, and the coaches mesh together. And you got a head coach that's been to the dance so many times in big games as a defensive coach that knows how to put the squelch on guys like Mullen and Gus Malzahn. I mean, he just
and Jeremy Pruitt.
He knows how to do it. So
at least on Twitter,
I wouldn't trade our team for anybody in the league, though. As much as I was talking about what we weren't established at on offense. So one of the things that I think that just got to be remembered is who you can count on is going to have to develop. They're going to have to show you that. I mean, they're going to have to prove it. There's a lot of difference between performance and potential.
How key for the development, though, do you think it is for these young guys? And like you mentioned, kind of wet behind the ears, they're very fresh for the program, but how crucial is it that they're going up against a defense of this caliber? I mean, they may not see another one as good all year.
Yeah, I hate it for building confidence, because, it's pretty demoralizing to go out there against everybody that you line up at the first 4 corners. Every one of them going to be playing in the league. The free safety and the strong safety are. That's tough, but it's going to make you better, because you're not going to see anybody any better. You might see some as good, maybe at Alabama and Florida, but that helps you. But I think the fact that we got 2 weeks now to kind of put it all together and mesh an offensive game plan where you're just working on a few defenses and a few situations instead of a smorgasbord of everything, they're going to have to benefit from that, because, it's tough to line up there if you're trying to block those defensive ends rushing. I mean, those are good players, but we know everybody's got good players in the league. Some of them have more than others, but wet behind the ears is a good point. But I would have liked to have seen Broderick Jones and certainly Tate Radlich have a little more action here in the fall camp from what I've heard. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I can't, I'm pretty much, for you guys to believe me right now, you could probably go out there to go down to McDonald's and get somebody to drive through and find somebody who knows more about what's happened. But
please.
I just know.
I believe it. I'm not believing it, Coach, because
I'm talking about what's happening in practice, because I haven't been there. I don't know.
I know. I'm just saying we had some folks that were at the scrimmage Saturday. They told us a lot about what was going on. We heard about Tate Radlich working at right tackle. We heard about Broderick Jones working at left tackle. We've heard about some of the guys moving around. We had that really strong reality pill, but I think we need, and Coach, you said it's 1 through 85 is probably the most talented Georgia's had in a long time. 3 back-to-back recruiting titles, as Jake Roos will tell you, means that you're pretty well loaded. I want Dane, though, to look over our scrimmage notes and be ready to give us a list of guys who could step in, those wet behind the ears guys who are starting to make a name for themselves, that offensive hope, the Jermaine Burtons of the world, some of the guys who are stepping up. Before I let him do that, though, I want to give you some hope about a good deal that you can get at Athens Ford. I noticed on the they extended their deal on the Ford certified pre-owned vehicles for this month through the end of September. You can get APR financing of 1.99%, less than 2% on all of their Ford certified pre-owned vehicles that are eligible for that financing deal. That is a heck of a deal. So for 36 months for qualified buyers, for 3 years, you can get 1.99 APR financing on any of their Ford certified pre-owned vehicles. And if you want to get a new one, if you want to get, like, say, the 2020 Ford Fusion, they have $7,000 off that one. If you want a Ford F-150, $14,000 off that one. 2020 Ford Explorer, $9,000 off that one. Point being, they are doing everything humanly possible to help you get into a new or certified pre-owned vehicle. Of course, all of their vehicles have a lifetime powertrain warranty, so long as it's under 80,000 miles. And I doubt they have any used vehicles over that. But anything under 80,000 miles used, lifetime powertrain warranty. Of course, all the new ones have the lifetime powertrain warranty. Great service, folks out there. And one of the easiest ways to actually buy a vehicle without actually having to walk into a dealership. You can have them walk around a car with a Skype, Zoom, Teams, whatever you want, show it to you. You can talk to their concierge that way, or you can have them drop it off and you can test drive it, and then they'll come pick it up. So you can still do test drives without even having to show up. So shout out to our friends at Athens Ford. So that's a positive note. Dane, give me some positives from the scrimmage that our spies told us about.
You guys have been talking about wet behind the ears, and that Georgia has a lot of experience that needs to be created among some of these younger guys. You will take wet behind the ears rather than a lack of depth any day of the week. And you're not going to find a team in the nation that has more depth at more positions than Georgia. That's defensive. When I saw that offensive depth chart, how they lined up in that scrimmage, I looked at that third team offensive line and said, oh man, I'd say half of those guys are starting at Arkansas right now. And I think
let me interrupt you there.
Have them.
I do want to point out that in those scrimmage notes, we had the first string offense, second string offensive line, and third string offensive line. So we had some pretty good quality of our notes there.
And I'll tell you a guy that I was surprised to see in there, Notori Johnson. Did not think about him when I was doing some mental depth charts in my head. Where could he fit into this as a piece? We know Clay Webb could rotate around on that interior offensive line. We know that Warren McClendon could kind of play a little bit of the role that Caden Mays did, where you kind of plug and play as needed. Look, across sports, we're seeing that because of a disrupted year, injuries are happening, and they're happening at a rapid rate, and it's just going to be tough for teams. And so Georgia's going to be a little bit better off to weather that storm than a lot of other teams are. I'll tell you another guy that has been popping up. We've heard about Jermaine Burton, but how about Dejan Edwards? And, you can say he's the fifth string running back all day long, but look, I covered a Georgia team that had Todd Gurley, Keith Marshall, Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, and yet Brendan Douglas was getting carries at Missouri. So you can never have too many running backs. And I think Dejan Edwards will get some meaningful carries this season for Georgia.
I think people forget too with Dejan how strongly Del McGee remained on him throughout the process. We try to tell people that we put it in the notes every time we put it out that, hey, keep this kid in the back of your mind, keep this kid in the back of your mind. They like what this kid can do. I think that it could have gone a couple different directions with Zach Evans, Tank Bigsby, but this kid was by no means a consolation prize. This was a guy who Georgia really liked throughout, and Del McGee's been super complimentary. Sounds like he's doing great at practice as well. And I think the thing that you got to love about him most of all is he kind of represents a little bit of that receiving threat that you lost with DeAndre Swift. He's a guy with solid hands out of the backfield.
He's just a physical player too. So that he's not going to be scared of blocking against some of these guys. And so if Todd Monken wants to use James Cook more on the outside, then Dejan Edwards is more than ready to block on the inside.
He played for Rush Probst, so he ain't scared.
I think we kind of mentioned Jermaine Burton. We saw Jermaine Burton running with the ones and twos. I think that's kind of a step up there. Burton coming in as a true freshman. I think that's quite impressive. Darnell Washington getting in there. We broke the news about his, was it a knee scope that he had or something they had? I can't remember. But the fact that he's
Darnell
back
had a
and
knee scope. He was out for a few weeks.
Right, but he's back now apparently and was running, doing a little bit of the first team stuff. Also working on those 2 tight end sets. So again, that gives you some hope that, hey, George likes, Todd Monken. We've seen him run those 2 tight end sets, and George has done that a lot, so maybe he's back again. Like you said, wet behind the ears, but we haven't even started to dig into, the 25 new freshmen basically that are on campus and what they can contribute to this team. And I think, Dane, you mentioned it, we've seen teams, saw what happened with Georgia Southern against Campbell, 33 players out. As we hope that doesn't happen at Georgia, we hope that doesn't happen anywhere, but that is a strong likelihood that, due to contact tracing, due to a positive test, you could be down. Georgia could head up to Arkansas, maybe without 4 or 5 players. Arkansas might be without 10 players. You never know what's going to happen going forward. So I think that depth and the experience we're seeing, a lot of guys getting rotated around. I know a couple offensive linemen played in 3 different spots in that scrimmage. They're just moving them around to see what they can do. To come up with your 15 best, if you will. Your point about depth, Dane, I think is something that we cannot hammer enough, because not only are you hoping just to have, rebuilding that offense and relying on your defense, but you could have a situation where, you're down 5-10 players, just due to the contact tracing. And I think we need to be cognizant of that, if you will.
When other teams are going to walk-ons, Georgia's going to be going to 4 stars and 3 stars from recruiting. And that's just insane advantage. I mean, I think of a guy that we saw that had a touchdown in the scrimmage was Micaiah Tongue. And Micaiah's a redshirt guy, did not play a lot last year. But I saw him in practice, and he catches the ball really well. He's got that exaggerated catch motion that you'd like to see in practice, and I think is a good athlete. Now, is he going to be a major person on Georgia's offense? Probably not, compared to the other talent that's on the team. But the fact that he's there in that depth chart, you got to feel really good that you have that at wide receiver when that was a position of weakness.
Here's another point to make about the philosophy of our offense based on what we have and what we hope to compete with. If you're having some problems with your offensive line and your pass pro and you're exposed on the edge, then a really good way to supplement that is run 12 personnel, where you have 2 tight ends, where you can put one on each edge and make it harder for the tackle, the guy rushing the tackle, to get around, because he's got to go around the tight end, and the tight end can chip him or he can help with the tackle. So that's going to be a good situation for Darnell, but it hurts us a little bit because McKitty now, who we brought in to reinforce the situation at tight end with Wolf leaving. I mean, do we have somebody that can, when the band's playing against Florida and it's 3rd and 7 and we got to have a pass caught to catch the ball to win the game like Wolf did? Do we have anybody at that position yet? I hope we do, but we brought Wolf in last year to do that, to help our situation, and we brought McKitty in by the same reason. Fortunately, it wasn't a serious injury, and he just had it scoped, but those are things you just can't take for granted. But 12 personnel also helps you, because all of a sudden you've lost Blaylock and you might not use 3 wide receivers. Your best personnel might be 2 tight ends and 1 back and 2 wide receivers, instead of 1 back, 1 tight end, and 3 wide receivers. Or you might go 2 backs and 2 tight ends with 1 wide receiver. I mean, there's all kind of things you can do there. But a guy like Todd Monken, what he's going to do is get the best 11 on the field to help us out. So you don't want Cook on the sideline with a guy that's a 4th or 5th receiver playing, because you want to run 3 wide receivers. I mean, you got to get Cook in the game there, whether it's as a slot guy or whatever it might be. Same thing with Washington or Seether or whoever that other tight end might be. Fitzpatrick's got the experience, and Godey has been hurt, but he's coming around. But I could go on and on about philosophy there, but that's the way you're going to build your offense, based on who you got and who you don't have, who's hurt, who can play, and who you can count on, who can do it when you got the chips are down. That's what you got to do.
I do want to touch on something that you mentioned early on in your state of the offense, if you will. You mentioned the fact that you got two new offensive tackles out there, you got an offensive line that's waiting to gel. Maybe that's a situation, and you said it plays in the favor of Dewan Mathis because he's speedy. If something breaks down, it's a guy that could take off and run. How much would the development of the offensive line predicate who you pick for the quarterback spot?
I think it's going to be a little bit there for sure, but you can pick the best guy first and then supplement him with what he does best to help your offense. Last year's offensive line, I think Daniels would maybe have an advantage there because you got a veteran group and you got an experienced quarterback that's played and he knows the checks and all that. If he's cleared, this year's offensive line needs some help a little bit. It needs somebody to not only take off and run, but avoid the rush. I mean, just because everybody blocks it perfect and one man misses a block doesn't mean you got to have a sack. If you got an elusive quarterback, look what Cam Newton did for the other day for the Patriots. I mean, the quarterback runs that they had in that game won the game for them. The lack of passing that they had hurt them, but he was able to sustain drives, making first downs. And I guarantee you, everybody in the league defensively worries about a running quarterback. I mean, you got to account for the guy. You can't pursue from the backside. You can't flow with the backside linebacker because the threat, if you do that and you don't take the quarterback, it's 15 or 20 yards minimum. So even if you play the quarterback, you still got to get him down. This guy's 6'6", runs a sub 11 second 100 meter. I mean, it's not like he's going to be out there and get hit just because they decide to play him. They got to tackle the guy. They got to put him on the ground. I mean,
we talk about the offensive lineman.
You remember Roman Gabriel? Does everybody remember looking Roman Gabriel play for the Los Angeles Rams, stand back there like a statue, and then people hit him and just bounce off of him and all that? I mean, this guy here can bounce around. He can run. And he's the number one thing that I think that Dewan Mathis has over any quarterback that we got is our players really believe in this kid and the way he's fought to be on the Georgia team. There's a lot to be said about this is not getting hokey, but they know how much it means to him to play, what he sacrificed trying to get healthy and all that, the way he worked against our scout team last year when he and made our team better. I mean, you got a quarterback that challenging your defense every week. Boy, it makes a lot of difference. And don't forget Stetson Bennett too, because of the same reasons. The guy can run your club, can avoid losing, and can do a lot of things. He just has he's a little smaller guy, but he knows what he's doing. And from what I heard, Beck's looking better too. So we got a good situation at quarterback. We just don't have a proven guy in our system yet.
Fair.
All right, Dane, I was going to let you go, but that's Coach. You bring up a good point about the proven, and that answers my question about how much the offense would rely on it. I was just thinking that if you had a situation where, hey, if your offensive line is sketchy, then does that say, well, you have to run this quarterback versus that one? But no, it makes sense. Hey, go with the best guy. I think a lot of people last week had, I won't say they had written it in stone, but if you looked at any of the insiders last week, everyone had JT Daniels as your starter. Some of the comments that came out of the scrimmage, JT Daniels is the guy. He looked strong. Mathis looked a little bit confused. This week, everyone's changed their tune, which is fun to watch people backpedal. I mean, they're backpedaling like Eric Stokes, trying to make up ground, saying, "Oh yeah, we knew all along Mathis was really good." So I'm just saying, was it a month ago when we asked Coach to pick two players that people weren't talking about on offense, he picked Dewan Mathis. It was everyone had a two quarterback race between JT Daniels and Jamie Newman, and there's Coach over there saying, I don't know anything that's going on, but keep an eye on Dewan Mathis.
And
subtle, Coach, subtle, really subtle.
Owen Condon too. Owen Condon.
You did mention Owen Condon, and then a couple days, well, 3 or 4 days later, broke that he was the starting left tackle. So you say you don't know this stuff, and we know you're lying.
Before we go any further, so I won't forget it, I read Bruce Feldman had a list of the top 10 impact freshman players in the country last week. Guys like Murphy over at Clemson, Breezy,
Miles Murphy,
and the guy he picked from Georgia, my favorite young player, Jalen Carter. And let me tell you one thing. If you want to get something at Classic City Eats to make your mouth water, dedicate it to Jalen Carter, because I'm telling you right now, that guy will make a bulldog break its chain. This guy is this guy's got a motor. He's quick. He's got a mean streak. He's got strength. He wants to be a dominant player. He's the kind of guy that every team in America needs to have on their defensive front. Now, we got some other really good defensive players, but people start having to double team him. Can you imagine Monty Rice and Nakobe Dean licking their chops with nobody blocking them?
Yeah, they better give him some of that fried chicken over at Classic City Eats if they're gonna. Just because when they start racking up the tackles, when you see Monty Rice, get those 11 tackles, and Nakobe Dean getting 9, and between the two of them they have 20 tackles, and the Jalen Carter, well, he had 1 assist, and you're like, wait a minute, he must not be doing his job because he only had that half tackle. But you realize that
I don't think that'll ever happen. I don't think he'll ever play a game where he doesn't. I mean,
no, I'm just saying, you see it sometimes when the offensive line has to focus 2 guys and they keep a tailback in just to chip 1 guy, and all of a sudden he doesn't show up on the stat line as being dominant. But when you have 3 players that are trying to deal with him and it frees up some other guys.
You're right. That's true. But I can tell you this: they can put the whole damn offensive line on that sucker. He's going to dominate. He's going to make plays. I mean, we haven't had a guy around him around here in a long time like this guy. I mean, when I hear some of our people say what I hear them say about this guy, and I watched the tape again the other day just to make sure in high school, but I'm just telling you right now, if you're not going to the game, watch the watch along and let me talk to you about the guy, because he's a dominant player.
We got to get you a jersey. We got to get you a Jalen Carter jersey.
I'll take it. I'll wear it.
Yeah. I agree. And I was actually going to mention the watch along because, Coach, you're talking about how teams are affected by a running quarterback. And it seems like there was maybe 3 or 4 games last year where you were sitting on my right, Dane's sitting on my left, and the 2 of you are talking about Georgia having to stop a running quarterback, a guy who just presents that headache. And I learned a lot from watching the watch-alongs last year, and I hope everyone else does so. We are doing them again this year. We have a great sponsor in Leon Farmer. We're going to hopefully pick up a couple other sponsors for the show. But 2 camera angles. We just ordered some new gear to make the watch-along more technically interesting for you. So be sure to check out the watch-along. Be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. I mean, it means a lot to us if you do. And click on notifications so it lets you know when we're live. So it'll be a great show to watch. We'll have Coach Donnan and Dane and myself breaking down the games as they happen. Last year, Coach will deny it, but I can tell you there were numerous times where he called the play before it happened. He's like, it's 3rd and 8. They're going to roll right here. Sure enough, 3rd and 8, they rolled right. I thought he was from the future. It was impressive. It was almost as impressive as the new beer garden out at Academia Brewing Company. We know this week it's supposed to rain like hell. It's pouring down outside here. So you guys are going to get some of this rain that's down here in Orange Beach. It's headed up towards Athens. But this weekend, hopefully by the time it clears up, swing out by Academia Brewing Company. Check out their new outside beer garden. It looks fantastic. It's a great place to go out and have a few beers. And they have wonderful stuff each week, new beers each week, and fantastic food and a great outdoor dining area. Now inside, the place is immaculate, and because it's so big, the tables are really spaced out. So if you have anybody that's a little hesitant about going out to eat now, take them out to Academia. they will feel very comfortable. But you can also go outside into that new giant patio that they have with all the planters, all the barrels, and the umbrellas. It looks fantastic. I give that a big shout out. And also want to talk about one of our other sponsors, Masada Leather has come on. Masada Leather, they are actually in 5 Points. I know a lot of us are used to going downtown Athens to check them out. But now if you go over by Earth Fair and the Royal Peasant, they're right between them. And you can pick up those Birkenstocks. You can pick up their custom crafted bags, the belts. You can get those for fat guys like me. You go through belts a lot, but they have lifetime warranties on all of their leather goods. It's all handmade there. They've been doing it since 1975. You can't stay in business for that many years if you're not making everybody extremely happy. And Irv and the folks over at Masada Leather do that. They are an Athens institution, and they're sponsoring UGASports.com. So if you would pop in there, we're in September. It won't be long before you're having to buy gifts for Christmas. New bags, new belts, new shoes, all this great stuff they have at Masada Leather. Check them out and start shopping for your family and let them know that we sent you. I think you went out someplace, did you not there, Jake?
I did, actually. On Sunday, I went and watched the game at Academia. So great place to watch it. Awesome. Tons of TVs. They had all the games on. If you are like me and you want to turn away from the Falcons at some points and focus your attention elsewhere, they give you that option. Great food too, and like you said, there were a lot of people there. It was really busy on Sunday, but it still felt like you had plenty of space to kind of have your own place. So great place to get out and watch the game, spend some time out in the world.
Dane, what was your biggest takeaway from looking at those scrimmage notes that Brent Rollins put together? And shout out to Brent for putting them together. We had so many people. They let the Letterman in. They let the McGill Society members in. A lot of those people are members of UGASports.com, and they were kind enough to say, hey, not publicly. They sent us private messages saying, here's what I saw, here's what I noticed. And Brent and folks on staff went and said, okay, we're told that Dwan Mathis hit Jermaine Burton on this 65-yard pass. This guy says it was 50 yards. This guy said it was 35 yards. That means the pass happened. So we put in there, Dwan Mathis hits Jermaine Burton. And getting all those different bits of information, I know Kirby Smart wasn't pleased about it. We had some folks live tweeting the scrimmage. He sent people up into the stands to make them stop. And he knew that after it was over, a lot of that stuff was going to wind up on the dog vent. I'm sorry, Kirby. I hate it, but again, there's nothing harmful to UGA in there. It's not like we said, oh, by the way, here's the secret weapon, and this is the formation and the plays they ran. I know it drives them crazy, but we did get some good intel. There's 50, 60 points of information that we were able to match up across different sources. So we know that these things happened. As the analyst and one of the guys that does the watch along, Dane, give me your kind of overall impression from this past scrimmage, knowing that it's the third scrimmage in.
Yeah, I think you got to like some of the situational things that we were able to glean from those scrimmage notes. Obviously, the quarterback stuff that you see, but this was not full-on football stuff. But you're trying to put players in situations where you can kind of learn what they're made of and if they're performing to the level that they're being coached. And I think Darnell Washington was a guy that you have some concern from the level of high school football that he played, and just the fact that he didn't have to do everything technically sound because he's built like LeBron James playing high school football. And so you want to see if he's kind of getting some of those things going. And that's going to be so crucial for Georgia at a position tied in where it's already quite limited, both in terms of depth and health. So the quicker that Darnell Washington can come along, the better off the offense will be. And the more pressure that takes off of the offensive line, that, as we said, is replacing a lot, and a new quarterback. Also, this is right up Coach's alley. The kicker situations, we're seeing guys made this kick or missed this kick. Look, kickers are going to be absolutely crucial in a season like this, where, especially for Georgia, you need points any way that you can get them. And so whether it's Zirkle, whether it ends up being Camarda, whether it's someone else, you want to feel good about the kicker spot. And it seems like they're still working on a lot of things with that in this neck and neck competition. You hope that in the next 2 weeks, somebody really elevates themselves to take that over, and you can rely on them.
Yeah, I think in the case of the kicker there, it's not what we don't have. Both these guys are really good. Whichever one they choose is going to be very good for us. They're just letting them, because you got so many situations there, you're just letting them continue to compete to see if a guy can beat the other guy out. You know what I mean? Instead of just judging it right away because they're both so close. I mean, to me, that's probably as competitive a situation as we have, maybe next to corner. I mean, how do you pick who the starting corners are for Georgia? I mean, you got Tyson Campbell's had a little bit of an injury from what I understand and been missing, but those four corners, and then you got Stevenson so good that they've been looking at him at safety some too, just so he can get on the field. I mean, he plays dime and star and things like that, and Webb. Our secondary is not as much depth now as it was because we lost, Devad left and also Ringo got the injury. But man, our secondary, I got to rate that among the best in the country.
Well, that's been some fantastic recruiting to get Georgia to have such depth in the secondary. Speaking of recruiting, we had, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, those recruiting notes that Jake Roos put together. Jake, can you give us a recap, if you would, of some of the recruiting stuff that's gone on, some of the stuff you want to share? I know a lot of it's behind the paywall, but, we have a lot of folks that are tuning in, and we want to give them something for tuning in, if you would. So let's share some of your secret news, if you would.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that you got to be concerned about this time of year is all the misinformation that's out there. I mean, you're hearing as much about what is and isn't happening, and for me, I've got to feel pretty good about something. Got to verify it through a couple people before we're going to run with it. That's just how we approach it. We heard a lot of rumors about guys in town this past weekend, and I'll tell you, the one I did feel good about was Amarius Mims. Now, there were others who were mentioned. I know that people heard, Smell Munden was mentioned, Barrett Carter was mentioned as possibly being in town. Both of those guys spoke to Rivals.com and said, hey, we didn't come. And so we've got no choice but to take them at their word, right? I mean, they could be playing it close to the vest. They could be throwing the diversion tactic down. But that's what they say, so that's what we roll with. One interesting point, though, that we did find out was it sounded like there was potentially an Alabama commit in town. And I heard that from a couple of people. Didn't get a concrete name, so we didn't run with that necessarily. But it sounds like somebody from that Alabama squad, that 2021 Alabama squad, may have found themselves in Athens this past weekend. My guess is it would be one of the familiar names on that commit list, and there are a couple. If Georgia fans go over there and check it out, that that the Bulldogs were heavily involved with at one point or another. So definitely something to keep an eye on there. Obviously we had some reaction from Corey Foreman talking about the LSU visit. That was pretty big, obviously an impactful one for him, and it sounds like they did a great job impressing him. I'm sticking with my Georgia prediction on him right now, just because of what Mason Smith and I talked about. Get over and check that story out too. We had part 2 of that last week of the Mason Smith story, and I think that he kind of gave some great insight into Corey's process, how he kind of views the Bulldogs as well. So, the way it's panning out, I mean, Georgia's put together a very solid class to this point. You're just kind of where you are every time of this year, right? I mean, under Kirby Smart, you're trying to reel in those big fish. This is one of those where you're sitting down in the chair and they're strapping you in for the marlin, for 6 to 8 hours. I mean, you got to do some cranking. So I mean, I feel good about where they stand with some of their top targets. I don't think that they're going to get everybody in this class. I think that Munden, for example, all I've heard on him is Auburn lately. It would be encouraging to see him on campus. I think that would give Georgia some reason to feel confident. But, it sounds like he's an Auburn lean for the time being. How does that affect, though, a guy like Xavier Sorey out of IMG Academy, the 4-star that Georgia's after heavily? I just think that they've got great options at a lot of those spots. And it looks like they're going to be able to close with some of those names, certainly. So, it's going to get weird in between now and then, is what I'll tell you. Somebody asked me on the board, how wild is this going to be? Right now, the deadline, or right now it's set at October 1st. Visits are supposed to resume. And if they don't push it again, then that's when you'll see things open back up. And my God, it's going to get bananas. I think it's you're just going to have so many guys experiencing so many new things, so many different things, the opportunity to meet people in person, experience facilities, etc. I think that we're all in for a whirlwind when it comes to the recruiting this year down the stretch here. And, it's going to be interesting to watch. I'll say that.
That'd be fun. I do want to mention.
Jake, is it October the 1st or October 31st?
I believe currently it's the 1st.
If anybody knows, you know, but
that was what Mason Smith told me, and I believe that's currently still the deadline. But I'll go back and check it. My guess is they're going to see how these next couple of weeks go in the NCAA, figure out from there, and allow it to move on. But I do think that we're going to get visits resumed here by the end of the season. Certainly, I think that you've got to give kids that opportunity, and I think that they were waiting to see how they could put the season together. Now that that's kind of off the ground, that's the next logical step.
I want to bring up.
I would go on record as saying that I would be tremendously surprised if they let anybody visit the campus during this football season. I mean, that would really surprise me. But or let you leave the campus to recruit. But I've been wrong before.
I was going to bring up something about that. The coaches would love to be out on the road. They don't have that opportunity currently, but they did get to watch one of their commits, Brock Vandegrift, 5-star quarterback, go up against a very talented South Carolina commit and Gunnar Stockton. Thane, you put together some video clips for us. What did you see from Brock Vandegrift?
I think Brock is so special. I mean, one of the best quarterback prospects that I've seen in a little while. I mean, he can make every throw on the field. He's athletic. Don't disregard the fact that this was quite a talent gap for the teams. You're talking 1A private versus a really good 2A team in Raven County. And so to come back from 3 scores down and they were right there on the doorstep with that third quarter comeback. Brock Vandegrift can do it all. He made some amazing throws. His stat line wasn't as impressive as, some of the previous games that he's had. But I think once you get a supporting cast around this guy, I think he's special. And, far be it from me to make a quarterback prediction for a season that's a full year out when we've got one right in front of us. But I think this kid has every look of a day one starter.
Coach, did you catch any of his highlights?
Yeah, I watched the game. I actually watched the whole game, and it was certainly a talent disparity as far as the depth that Prince Avenue had going against Raven County. But both these guys are really good players, and I've always liked Brock's demeanor. You watched last night Tannehill play for the and do such a tremendous job being the quarterback. He actually moved Marcus Mariota out. They traded Marcus, who was their number 1 draft choice as a Heisman Trophy winner. And Tannehill was a receiver in college for a couple years, and then he ended up being a quarterback. Brock was a receiver in the 9th grade here at over there at Prince Avenue, and he's got that kind of athleticism to go with his. Plus, he's a coach's son, and he's got good demeanor. It's obvious the kids respond to him. He's got good leadership. I think something that's really prevalent for us is the way these kids have come into Athens and visit him, and that we're trying to recruit. He's showing great leadership, and to have leadership, you got to have followership. You got to have guys that want to follow you. They got to be I don't know if that's the word or not, but you got to have guys that want to be around you, and you attract players to you because they know you got to have a trigger man to do the job. So I'm excited about what he brings to the table here, and the fact that he's going to be ready to start during the bowl practice. He can be practicing right here with our team, and he'll get about 15 practices in before if we're in the playoffs, even more. So he'll be ready.
I like it. I like the fellowship, as you say, and we've seen that with Dwan Mathis to kind of bring that back around. A lot of the Georgia players are rooting for him. I'm not saying that they're rooting against JT Daniels. I'm just saying that he's been here 2 years. They saw the surgery that he went through. They saw the rehab. there are a lot of Georgia players who are bought into Dwan Mathis as his story and his friendship. He's a teammate. They've blood, sweat, and tears have gone in with this kid, and they've been right there with him. So I think that you make a good point, Coach, about the fellowship, and that he's a leader and these guys are paying attention to it. That's not to say JT Daniels can't do it, because he did lead guys at USC as a true freshman. So as much as we know that the quarterback race is kind of up in the air, you've got two really good choices there. And of course, they all know Stetson Bennett, and they all remember how Stetson Bennett helped him win the Rose Bowl. So he's got a lot of friends and followers there. I do want everyone to take a minute out of their time and follow the YourPie app. Go ahead and download the YourPie app to your phone. It is a fantastic feature. So whenever you go to get a YourPie pizza or a sandwich or a salad or anything that they offer, you can just type it in, pick your crust, pick your sauce, pick your cheese, pick your toppings, all the same price. Tell them, do you want it delivered? Do you want to pick it up curbside? Do you want to go in the store and grab it? It's as easy. It's as easy as watching this show. You just push the button and it's ready to go. I did want to tell you, we've talked about their the Al Pastor chicken, but this new thing they have, the Tex-Mex cheese sticks, or excuse me, Fresh Mex cheese sticks. Those look fantastic. So give those a shot. I see Jake perking up. What? Fresh Mex cheese sticks? Yeah.
I'm ready for you to stop talking, man.
Yeah, really. And when you get a chance, check out our friends at YourPie. Know they're well over 50 locations, and they're opening them up all the time. And if you want to open a location, reach out to Natalie and Drew French, two giant Georgia Bulldog fans. Started here in Athens, as Bulldog bred as a company can possibly be. So check them out, YourPie. I also want to mention Aaron Overhead Doors, big sponsors of our show, big sponsors of this podcast, big sponsors of our website and our 321 Georgia reports. And once the season progresses, we'll be doing those Georgia 321 reports. That's 3 observations, 2 questions, 1 prediction. We did those every week last year throughout the season. We broke a lot of news in there. We gave you a lot of bad opinions, and it was a lot of fun stuff. But they sponsored that, and we want to give them a shout out. They have grown exponentially since they started advertising with UGA Sports. We're going to take full credit for that. It had nothing to do with their fantastic service. The fact that all their people are employees and not contractors, they're all trained, they're all background checked, they're all drug tested, they're all full-time employees of Aaron Overhead Doors. No, it's all because they advertised with UGA Sports, so they were able to increase their service area exponentially. Now they're all over Gwinnett, Stevens, Jackson, Forsyth, North Fulton, Dawson, Hall, DeKalb, Barrow, Cobb, Clark, Cherokee, Walton, Oconee. That's all thanks to UGAsports.com. Nothing to do with their fantastic service and the ability to pick them up anytime you want. And go to their website and have them come out whenever you want based on your schedule. So we started late, so we'll run a little bit later. Jake, if you would, give us a couple questions that we can jump on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one of the most interesting ones that I saw today, someone was asking, Coach, when you're building a depth chart, is it more about what's happening in the moment, or is it what you project is going to happen over the course of the season?
Good question.
Do you think, is it more about projection, or is it more about, hey, this is who's got it right now?
Well, I could just go right down the middle and say a little bit of both, but the thing that you always want to do is look into the future. How you going to, is this just a short-term fix? But sometime a guy could maybe just step in and do some things because he knows the system and all that. But I would say you base it on what's it going to take to beat Alabama. I mean, that's the way you look at it from my standpoint. And certainly Arkansas, we don't take them for granted, Auburn, Tennessee, but how are we going to build these issues here to beat Alabama, to beat Florida? So I would say more projection of the whole season. You have goals, you have short-term, long-term, mid-term goals, but you really don't just stick a finger in a dike. You just put a guy in there and go with some of the things. You're going to have to learn to live with some things that he might be deficient in, but over the long haul, he's going to be ready to do a better job overall.
Absolutely. Coach, this one from Condo Steamer 09. He says, a lot of reports said offense clearly had a better day during the scrimmage last Saturday. You think this is more due to them being more comfortable with the scheme and plays, or is it more of a reflection of the defense not being as locked in as in previous scrimmage?
This is up in the air, but I don't see how the offense could do that great if they only kicked a field goal and a half. I mean, I read these notes too. So, I mean, whoever was saying that's, I'm not talking about this guy's question, but optimistically, we got to score more than 3 points in 2 quarters. So I don't know that. I guess people are looking for silver linings because the defense has done so many good things over the last couple of years. But I think listening to Kirby, all 3 scrimmages afterwards, I know the first one, he thought we were a little bit, defense didn't tackle well. The offense probably dominated the first scrimmage because the defense didn't tackle well. The second time he said he was really happy with the defense, but the offense was inconsistent. And then last week he was mad about everybody tweeting everything out about what happened. So, I mean, who knows? But I think the bottom line is our offense is going to struggle against our defense right now with all the question marks we have. That's a given. Whereas some of our defensive backs that had to play when some of our guys missed the first scrimmage, we had several guys out. They struggled against our offense, covering them and playing. The third team defensive backs were playing with number 2 defense. And the first play of the game, offense broke a 75-yard touchdown. Kirby even said that, and he's talking about them. So I like our 70-man squad. I don't know why the SEC won't let you take 80 like the ACC. We only can take 70 guys to Arkansas. I mean, they should make an adjustment and let you take 10 more, because all of a sudden you test everybody all week, and then on Friday you got 7 or 8 that can't go. You need more, I think. I think you need to have 80, but I like our 80-man travel squad. I like our coaching staff. I think we got an edge in coaching, and that includes against Alabama with Nick Tater too, because I think our defensive staff's got a heck of an edge on their defensive staff on experience, productivity, everything around. I mean, Alabama gave up 40 points 3 times last year. Can you imagine what Kirby be doing right now, even now, if we gave up 40 points 3 times? So I like our chances.
All right, last one here for you, Coach. I think this is a good one to end on, because very clear how you feel about Jalen Carter. Our guy over here, Dodge County Dog.
I feel good about Walker too now. I mean,
oh, sure. Dodge County Dog, though, says anybody that you might compare Jalen Carter to from your era at UGA?
Well, I would say in my coaching career would be Jerome Brown, that played for Miami, that we couldn't block at Oklahoma. As far as here, I know when we recruited him, and Scott Fountain was down there, and Trey Scott and all that, and Marshall Malco was the recruiting guy back then. And I hadn't heard about this guy. And he sent me a text. He said, Coach, we're on a guy that's a lot like some of those guys you used to have in the 90s, like Seymour and Stroud and those guys. And I said, what's his name? And he said, Jalen Carter. And I immediately put him on there. So I'm playing tight end as a sophomore, and then he moved to defensive tackle. So I can't say he's like Stroud or Ferguson or Smith or who those guys. We had a lot of them play, Marlis Leroy. I mean, can you imagine the Marlis Leroy, the kind of player he was for us, playing nose guard? I mean, man, it just makes my mouth water to think that Marshall and those guys would say compared to some of those D linemen we had. So, but Trayvon Walker's gained 20 pounds, Roddy? Y'all did an interview with him. They say he gained 20 pounds. And
he's put on some muscle and still apparently running like a deer. I'm very excited.
We got Rochester back after last year. That was a brilliant move holding them out last year. And all these guys get to repeat this year if they want to too. But our defensive front, with the outside pressure that we got and with the inside guys we hadn't even talked about 99 Man Mountain guy in there. It looked like, I mean, can you believe how much does he weigh now?
Oh, he's got to be pushing 340 at least. I would
I was
think.
gonna say 340. I mean, he's gonna fight. He's gonna fight that battle all the time when it comes
He's
to weight.
in good shape. Well, they're talking about he's running
Oh
good.
yeah.
And he's a stallion. I'm talking about a stallion. 99.
But coach, even with him there,
take up and knock that center's ass back into the quarterback. I'm talking about boom. I mean, God knows. I mean, that just. I mean, we need to. I'm probably going to jump up and do the funky chicken here, talking about our D line.
Well, I mean, you talk about Davis, you can talk about Carter. You know, Jordan Davis. You know, that freshman campaign he had was fantastic. But I think that this series that Dane Young and Brent Rollins did, talking about the highest graded players on Georgia's team, the number one guy was Malik Herring. And we don't even mention Malik from week to week. And so you put Jordan Davis in that 0-1 technique and then start.
Great leader. I mean, kids respond to him, and he's really good leader.
I really like what Malik's doing. I like Malik's opportunities this year because, and again, if you've got people having to accommodate, you know, Jordan Davis in that A gap, and you're having to deal with Jalen Carter, you got Trayvon Walker, and you're going to give Malik Herring a nice one-on-one somewhere. Congratulations, Malik Herring, on that All SEC performance that you've turned in this week. Congratulations to being Defensive Player of the Week. So.
I don't think that draft straight for defensive line is going to stand much longer.
Jake, let me just point this out. You got two guys going in on your nickel and dime defense, and Webb and Stevenson, that would be starting for anybody in the country at corner, most places. I mean, and then you got Stokes, Campbell, and Daniel. At the three corners. They can rotate around a little bit, and then LeCount and Scene at the defensive backs. I mean, it's not fair, really. It really isn't fair.
Yeah, Kirby doesn't like to play fair, but
you know, when people think about that bowl game against Baylor, they all think about George Pickens, but go back and watch what Malik Herring did that game.
Exactly.
And what Lewis Scene did.
No, or what he's done ever since then.
Because
he's ready to hurt someone else. Let's put it that way.
The good thing about our offense is that if we can just get a tie at the offensive line with Pickens and Cook and White, I mean, we're going to be good on offense. I'm just telling you right now, we're going to be good. I mean, I just don't want everybody to just be, you know, I always want to be a doctor, but I don't have enough patience. So just be a little patient.
And that's the perfect way to wrap up Coach's entry and exit of the show. So, hey, folks, appreciate everybody tuning in. We will be back next Tuesday. We know what Jake's going to be doing for the next 30 minutes there. He's going to be wolfing down some groceries. The rest of us, I'm going to go watch this hurricane out the window here. And we will be back next Tuesday. I guess next Tuesday we're looking at game week, right?
Tune in next week when I'm the publisher of the site now and also the host.
Game week.
But remember, we do have a show Thursday with me and Coach Donnan and Brent Rollins around the league. It's going to be about the SEC, where Coach Donnan will tell me why my SEC predictions are horrible.
Are you guys going to give some betting advice?
I like your predictions. I mean, you're good.
You're good.
That was a vote of confidence right there.
We can see you, Coach.
I think I've seen. Hey, just preliminarily, I've seen where he picked Auburn to be 7-3, which is probably a little optimistic.
Cold-blooded.
There you go, then. That'll make for fun.
Anyway, all this back and forth and all this fantastic SEC stuff will be this Thursday at 1:00. Are you guys gonna be doing it on YouTube as well?
We will.
So are we going to be just radio, or are we going to be able to see your picture and all this? Are we doing it like this?
No, yeah, we'll do it just like this, Coach. If you're good to do it this way.
Hey, that's great. I mean, I'm looking forward to it.
I like seeing your pretty face every day. Dead silence after that joke.
No, I didn't want to step on your line. All right, everybody. tune in this Thursday at 1:00, and then next Tuesday at noon, we will have a couple of great shows for you heading into Georgia taking on Arkansas a week from Saturday. Take care, everybody.